All right. So a topic that you and I have been throwing back and forth with one another for the last few weeks. And I think you and I are pretty much on the same page. And it's something I think it really deserves like an open discussion, which is Kenny Omega, AEW, this partnership with Impact Wrestling. There's a lot to dissect here. And I think you and I are on the same page as far as I don't think it's been executed properly, or it could be handled a lot better up until this point. For me, and like you said, I think was it last week you did a podcast on the Fight Game podcast, Kyle? You pretty much said it's been botched, right? Is that to sum it up?
Which upset the natives. They got upset.
So for me, where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, we'll go through kind of like the timeline of things from how I'm trying to explain it all. So where I'm coming from is, and this is what you and I were talking off the air a little bit, if you were to take someone, non-wrestling fan, who hasn't been keeping track of Kenny Omega and everything he's been up to pretty much since all out, I want to say, I think that's where kind of things started to change for him. If you were to sit them down and just explain to them what's been going on, if that person has any sort of common sense, they would realize it doesn't make sense. This story, a lot of the plot holes, motivation of people involved here, it doesn't make sense. And based on that kind of just that idea, the more I just think about it, I'm like, I'm watching Impact and AEW the last few weeks. I mean, definitely the last 6 weeks where all this stuff's been going on. And I'm like, a lot of it doesn't make sense of just like, what is going on here? So, I guess, John, for you, go ahead if you want, maybe if you can't explain why, in your opinion, this whole thing's been kind of just botched so far.
Well, when they did the turn and Kenny Omega won the title on Moxley, Don Callis, swerved them all, and now they're going to Impact, and like not once has anyone of management been upset with Don Callis and Omega. He still can go on the show. There's like Tony Khan, we don't see him other than we see him as a heel on Impact, which totally makes no sense. Other than I think he's just having fun in someone else's sandbox and getting his kicks there. But like we saw him just two little clips. First clip, he was upset, yelling at Don Callis as him and Omega ran down the hallway into their limo and got out. We saw but like if you didn't know who Tony Khan was, you would not know who the little skinny guy is with the headset in the corner is, right? Mm-hmm. It was so quick. And then recently, 2 weeks ago now, when the Good Brothers wrestled for the first time on Impact, they cut to a little video box with the Young Bucks. So the match was going to be Omega and his buddies, the Young Bucks, in a 6-man tag. Don Callis is like, "Hey guys, let's you guys get your own entrance. We'll get our own. Let's make it really cool and special. Let's not do the whole elite music. Let's do something cool and just like you do your thing. You'll have your big pyro and we'll do ours." So Omega comes out, Callis gets on the mic, and he's introducing. You think he's going to introduce the Young Bucks? Nah, he introduces the Good Brothers who come from the side, and now they're wrestling in this match. Which should they really be allowed to wrestle? But then anyway, they cut to Omega. They cut to Tony Khan and the Bucks watching this. And the Bucks are laughing like, we got ribbed, like they're not pissed, they're not upset, they're not angry. Mm-hmm. Tony Khan is smiling, and then right at the end of the clip, a little shot. He finally gets a mean face on, like he should be upset. He should not allow the Good Brothers to be wrestling these invaders. But why can they freely just wrestle? Right? It just doesn't make sense. It just it doesn't feel like an invasion angle. I don't know if it's really an invasion angle or it's just – and like in this week alone, after last week, the Young Bucks go to Kenny Omega's house to talk to him. He's not there. They're confronted by Don Callis. Now the Bucks are angry about what happened last week. They're laughing about it or going, "Oh, shucks," the week before. Yeah. But now they're upset with Don Callis, and now apparently we're supposed to think they beat him up. Maybe not. Maybe Don Callis beat himself up to kind of – get Kenny pissed off with the Bucks. Mm-hmm. But now on this week's episode, the Young Bucks are teaming with the Good Brothers against the Dark Order. So why would they want to team with the Good Brothers? I don't know if that's been explained. I don't watch BTE, I'm sorry, I can't keep up with every little thing on their social media content. Like, but it doesn't make sense now. Why are they now? Why are these EVPs that we all know they talk about as being EVPs teaming up with these invaders from a different company? Just stupid.
Yeah, no, you perfectly summed it up right there. As far as okay, so Kenny Omega, and I think a lot of, okay, listen, on paper, sure, this is awesome as far as AEW working with Impact Wrestling, two promotions, non-WWE promotions working together in America. We haven't seen that in a long time, maybe since what? Territory days, if you want to that throwback. I mean, I know I'm trying to think, the Impact do some stuff with or TNA back in the day, but stuff on a more smaller scale maybe, but nonetheless, okay, that's cool that they're working together, but it's what's the point of all of it? For AEW, this is a company much smaller than you, so are you going to gain that much more of a following by showing up over there or working with Impact? Impact, it's a great situation for them. They're going to get a ton of exposure or mentions on Dynamite and whatnot, and hopefully people will tune into Access TV, and they've been getting a bump as of late. But yeah, now from the actual storyline though, okay, so Kenny Omega wins the championship from Moxley at Winter is Coming back in December. He goes running off with Don Callis, and he's like, we'll go to Impact and explain all of this. So we hear this explanation, how he's the best, they've been longtime friends, but I'm like, what are you trying to accomplish here? Is this an invasion of AEW into Impact? Is this supposed to be an invasion from Impact into AEW? I know a lot of people are like, oh, is this like a new NWO and WCW? At least that story, I think, was a little more easy to understand back at the time. And that was me in middle school, high school. I could understand it at the time. And for me, I like my stories easy to understand and explain. I mean, that's why I give NXT credit. For the most part, all their storylines are pretty simple, easy to follow along, not over convoluted like where it's kind of happening right now in AEW and Impact. So I'm like, what's the motivation of all this? Don Callis, who's like the head guy or one of the head guys over Impact, you're bringing in a champion from another company into your company that you work for, but why? Do you want him to be your champion for Impact? Or, I mean, I get you said the belt collector, that's like his new gimmick, but like, what's the point of that? Like, what's the point of having Kenny show up on Impact? Like, I just don't get it. And then, okay, obviously he's reuniting with his old Bullet Club boys, the Good Brothers. That's a cool callback for stuff in Japan. Now they're showing up on AEW Dynamite. So is that supposed to be an invasion by way of, because they're just aligning themselves with Kenny Omega? But what do they get by coming over into AEW? They're already champions in their other promotion. But what do they get by showing up in AEW? So I just don't get what the motivation is for these people in different promotions working together when it should be pretty clear. It should be like AEW versus Impact, theoretically. I think that's the easier story to tell. It's like these guys versus these guys because there's two separate companies. But now it's like multiple guys, working together, and then multiple guys, other guys, pissed off. And then even last week, Matt Hardy and Private Party showed up, and they won the match at the end against James Storm and Chris Sabin, and now they're the new number one contenders for the Good Brothers. So the Good Brothers are defending their Impact tag titles against an AEW tag team. So I'm like, is this just talent sharing, or is this an invasion angle? It just doesn't make sense to me. Like I said, how do I explain this to someone non-wrestling fan like you and I who've been watching? Like, we're trying to understand it. It's confusing.
Because one show you have Tony Khan's on a Kramer personality who's a heel, and he's upset with Impact. Yet, other than Don Callis, everyone else in Impact is like just normal, right? They and the Good Brothers now, but Rich Swann didn't want this to happen. All these other guys. So why is I don't know. And then gosh,
say no. Like you and I were baffled, and like this is confusing.
When I saw Private Party, when I read that they showed up to Impact, the challenge. Gallows and Anderson, you could put the Private Party onto each shoulders, and they're not as big as Luke Gallows himself. right? And sure enough, they can get in scale not weigh as much as Luke Gallows and so I'm pretty sure. So maybe stack Matt Hardy on there. He might tip the scale.
Yes, exactly.
Like this is the team. Like at least send SCU, who's like an established tag team that has some history with Impact Wrestling. That would kind of make some sense, I guess. But it's just so damn confusing. And Tony Khan needs to be an on-air character, not as a heel in AEW, but he needs to be the guy like, hey, what you guys did was wrong. You know what? Okay, I'll let you guys play your game, but we're going to kick your ass. I got, you know what I mean? Like, I'll allow Gallows Anderson here. But trust me, they're going to go up some stiff competition here, and we're going to show you who's better and all that kind of stuff. Whatever.
Yeah.
Like, say something. He hasn't, they need to, and then strip Kenny Omega of his EVP, right? He breached his contract.
Yeah.
Something like that. Oh, but with AEW, the way they act like, well, this is a storyline. This is just, like you're not going to get the heat generated. Like people thought fucking WWF was showing up in WCW in May of '96, right? When Hall showed up and started saying, hey, yo, right? And then they didn't wrestle the next day on Nitro. They didn't wrestle to the pay-per-view. Great match. And finally, Eric Bischoff allowed it. WCW allowed it so we can get some, retribution, on these, Vaders. That's how it all planned out. WCW is really well planned on the beginning. We can talk about the finish of it all, but it has to be something like that. Like, what is this? Where's it going? And why? Then Moxley comes. Oh, then this blew my freaking mind, right? So Moxley comes out. He fights Omega, right? He's finally experienced. He attacks Omega. The Good Brothers attack Moxley. Here comes the Young Bucks. They're trying to keep cooler heads from Omega, and but they're like, hold on, leave him alone. But then here come the Lucha Brothers to save the day, and then the Lucha Brothers super kick the Young Bucks, who are just trying to keep the peace. Like, why would the Lucha Brothers all of a sudden? It's just totally wacky. It's just it's all over the page. And like I said, coming up tomorrow, the Young Bucks, who were screwed by Don Callis 2 weeks ago, are now teaming with his tag team this week.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, I was trying to think, like, how can they retcon this a little bit to make it somewhat sense? Maybe does Don Callis reveal that Kenny Omega is a spy and he's been with Impact the whole time? He's been an Impact employee the whole time. I mean, I'm trying to think a big reveal like that. And so it's like, haha, my top Impact star is actually now the AEW champion. We're bringing the championship over here. But I mean, you already have an Impact championship world title. So what's the point of having an AEW championship show up there? You're just promoting this other company and their title. Like, like I said, I don't get it. Like, it would have made more sense maybe if Don Callis, did the initial guest commentary was at All Out originally when Kenny defeated Hangman Page and initially turned heel that night.
Not really. He just won the match clean, so he didn't really turn heel to the title change.
Oh my god, yeah. Which the Kenny Omega personality, the gimmick currently, I want to get into in a second as well, because I'm not fully invested in as well. That's a whole nother thing. But I was thinking, would it have been better if like Don Callis says, "Oh, Kenny invited me here," and then maybe he starts bringing in more Impact guys with him. And they're like, oh, these are my friends. We were all special guests, and like they sit ringside, but then they jump over the barricade and attack everyone. Then it's like, okay, actually like an Impact invasion, like Don Callis tricked people just to show up as a friend, but in reality, it was a way to get his guys in to beat the crap out of them. And like maybe the motivation is, you guys act like you're the second best company in America, but you only been around for just barely a year. We've been around overall Impact and TNA for 20 plus years. So where's our respect? I mean, that's an easy motivation right there. But then, I mean, obviously it doesn't really make sense for Callis and Kenny to be teammates at the time. Unless it was revealed like he's the third man, brother. I don't know. Like,
I mean, on paper, just like for Impact, it seems like a positive because they'll get some more attention on them, like you said earlier. But really, other than that first night when Kenny showed up, they've been doing their normal rating, or they got barely any bump. They got less on their pay-per-view where Kenny wrestled and beat their champion clean, by the way, which is ridiculous as that is. Like, they should have some kind of cheating to win. Like, the rating that following after that pay-per-view did less than the week before. So Kenny hasn't really done much. Just hasn't done much at all for Impact. And that was botched from the beginning because, like, on that first episode of Impact, Scott D'Amore was like, we got Kenny. Instead of being like, hey, Don, like, what were you doing? And then Don be like, don't worry, man. We got Kenny Omega. We got one of the best wrestlers in the world on our roster now. He's going to wrestle for Impact. He's like, and Scott D'Amore's like, yeah, Kenny's great. That's sensational. But I wish you would have ran this by me first.
Create some tension there.
You kind of babyface Impact a little bit, right? If it's not going to be a promotion versus promotion thing, it may just going to be the Good Brothers Omega thing, right? That could be its own thing, but at least just don't make the company Impact look like dipshits. And don't make don't forget, Callus, we got Rich Swann. He's a pretty good talent too. He's a pretty good world champion, and Cosmo. Oh yeah, he's great. Yeah, he's great. But we got Omega, and then so they kind of have some kind of like either some conflict there for Omega and Impact. And then there's also, of course, conflict with AEW. That's why. Yeah, it's all over the page. But now you have Tony Khan being an asshole. But okay, Tony, but like, why are you an asshole here? If it's really not all of Impact doing this, it's just Don Callis. Yeah, he's part of it. He's not the management, right? So I don't know. It's just too much. All right.
Yeah. No, I'm with you because it's like. It just doesn't make sense from like a motivation standpoint with like I said, it's really confusing. It's individual parties from these different companies working together when it's not as clear and defined of like it should be this promotion versus this promotion. And then you can easily create like a conflict between the two there. But I'm just like, what's going on? And then my other thing too is, like, what's the long-term goal? What can come from this? My guess, like, eventually, I'm guessing Kenny's probably going to beat Rich Swann at some point for the Impact title.
It's not going to be the next pay-per-view. It's going to be Rich Swann and Moose.
Yes. Is that the one in February? Is that the one?
The February 13th, No Surrender, I guess it's called, or something like that.
Okay.
And then, before NXT. I know it's before NXT.
And then the Rebellion pay-per-view that they announced for April has, like, the little Omega symbol in it. So I guess it's a clue that he's probably going to show up and work there. So does Kenny win the Impact title there and then kind of starts the whole belt collector gimmick as far as, okay, he has AEW, he has the AAA Mega Championship still, and he has the Impact Championship, so he has like 3 belts holding on to, like that's part of the storyline there. But long term, I guess you would have to create build up a star to defeat someone from Impact to eventually to defeat him. Maybe could that be Moose down the road? I don't know. I'm
rather have to be Moose and Rich Swann. I'll tell you that. I mean, I like Swanee. Like he's a good little worker, but like on the marquee main event, do you really see like Rich Swann as like he's like to me Rich Swann's a good talent like in the middle of the show. He's a good show guy, good tag team guy. Yeah. Willie Mack would be a good tag team where they make great chemistry together. But like at least Moose looks like carries himself like someone. He's a big old guy and. I don't know. Maybe Mego might not like working with a guy like Moose. He prefers a guy like more his style, like Rich Swann. But I mean, I think they made Rich Swann look like a complete goof in this whole deal.
Yeah.
He's not going to be a champion. It's going to be Moose that takes the title.
So the other thing too. So what I was talking about with Kenny Omega's character, and listen, I know this first year of AEW's existence, a lot of people thought they were just going to get a continuation of the Kenny Omega that they saw in New Japan. We didn't necessarily get that. He was really focused on being a tag team with Heyman and Adam Page. And so a lot of people were like, where is the guy that we just saw with all those matches with Okada and Jericho? We're not kind of getting that same guy right now. And so in some ways, maybe his momentum was even kind of ruined because of that. Now, a lot of people were like, we want the cleaner again. We want that guy from New Japan back here in America. And so a lot of people were craving that. And so when he defeated Hangman Adam Page, but like as you said, it was done. He beat him clean, no pun intended. But and then all he did was Hangman, went for like a hug, wherever, if I remember correctly, and then he just fell, and Kenny just stood out of the way and just walked out and told like the Young Bucks like, come with me if you want to. But he just left. So I was like, it wasn't the most like official heel turn, but I guess that was the start of the heel turn there. And then all he did was really just put on sunglasses, and then all of a sudden he's like, flashy shirts, and it's like, okay, so he's a heel now, but it wasn't as defined. And my issue is like, okay, is he officially like the cleaner again? But like they don't really acknowledge it. And so, and what I'm getting at is, imagine, I'm sure there's a lot of hardcore fans who know about the whole cleaner gimmick and what he did in New Japan. But imagine a lot of newer fans to AEW who just know Kenny Omega based on what his time so far on TNT. If you don't know about that New Japan stuff, I think they've really done a lousy job kind of defining and explaining what that character is, or at least he as explaining what is the cleaner character. Like even for me, I wasn't watching New Japan closely over the last few years, so I had to kind of go back and kind of research it. And please confirm if I'm explaining right. The cleaner gimmick was more or less at the time him trying to clean out the juniors division, right, and become the top person in that weight class, win the title there, and then he eventually moved up to heavyweight and was dominating there.
He lucked out when AJ left to WWE and Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows left, so it left a spot for a leader for the Bullet Club. I guess the leader has always been like a foreign leader because Finn Balor first, AJ Styles, and so they went with Kenny Omega in that spot. And people want the cleaner. They want Kenny Omega in New Japan and AEW. Like those diehard New Japan fans who also diehard AEW fans want that guy.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have that guy because you don't have the booker behind it. You don't have Gato.
Yeah.
You create it. Gato is a brilliant mind, as we know.
Mm-hmm.
He knew how to use Kenny to the best of his abilities, how to get everything out of him. I think he created the best bout machine. Like he pushed him, he made him gave him those in that position. There's a natural storyline within Kota Ibushi that he was working towards and everything. Kenny Omega is just on his own and left his own creativity. Like I don't think he doesn't have the editor like he needs, right? With like Gato was like kind of keep him on track. It's kind of like Vince Russo when he went to WCW. Oh, he's gonna just launch WCW, man. It's gonna be a whole new era with Vince Russo. But we found out like Vince Russo's the shits without Vince McMahon just editing out all his crap.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, okay, he throws on the shades. I wish the announcers would explain maybe the importance of Kenny Omega wearing shades. Just little details. Just fill us in. Like if we didn't watch New Japan, explain.
I don't think Jim Ross knows or Tony.
that is true.
He's probably itching at the bit to say every little detail about that crap.
But I'm like, at least kind of explain who is this persona that he's starting to do once again. And why should we care about this? And maybe, I don't know how much language they can use that like New Japan owns the rights to, but maybe explain like over his time in New Japan, he dominated in the juniors division and he cleaned out that division. Maybe play on words that way and just explain a little bit of what this character he's resembling once again that we saw a few years ago. So that, like I said, we didn't watch New Japan back at the time. At least we can kind of connect the dots in our head and start kind of getting emotionally involved. Like, oh, okay, so this is a heel he did once before, persona he had once before, but he's bringing it back. And, Hangman was kind of like the first victim of that.
Or just assume all the fans don't know anything about New Japan and just turn heel and do your own thing. Right? Yeah. Make it your own. Maybe he is. Maybe he thinks he is with this, flashy shirts and these
expensive shoes,
and all stuff. But also with his in-ring wrestling, is he still going to do the same thing he does before? Now he needs to heal a little bit. Now, a lot more. Now he needs to cheat more. He needs to do stuff. To me, he's still doing V-triggers and, Terminator dives and just because he's, look at a crowd, the camera, with a little angry face and say F you doesn't mean you're a heel,
Yeah.
It's pacing, it's timing, it's a lot of other things that just It's just like I say F you to the crowd. And so if you're still going to go out there and have these crazy matches and do all these crazy moves, like people are going to cheer you still. So, they're just more in. They're just more in with it than actually giving you heat, right? Now, granted, there's not that many fans there to really get this heat, but I'm assuming if there was fans, the AEW fans would probably mostly cheer than they will boo. I think the only person they actually booed was MJF, but I think that was still kind of nudge, nudge, wink, wink, But when we talk about AEW, like one thing that just really frustrates me, like everyone always talks about they have such great long-term storytelling. It's a long-term story. You can't grade it yet, but like how many stuff have they just these long-term stories that just automatically dropped from small stories to big stories? Like how long it took for the whole Kenny Omega Adam Page split up to where they just split up.
Yeah.
And like no breakup, no violent ending, nothing. Just it was just they had a tournament, they fell in the finals, they wrestled, and he just walked away from him. And yet Adam Page for a couple weeks was thinking they're still a tag team, but he didn't get it that they weren't, so he's an idiot. I mean,
yeah, Kenny in his interviews was just acknowledging that tag teams in the past he's going to be a single star again, and Hangman, was trying to hold on to some hope that they were going to maintain what they once had. But yeah, I'm with you. It's just like flesh out these details. Yeah, like okay, if Kenny, you're going to do the cleaner gimmick, explain what that gimmick is so people know. Or as you say, do a new heel persona and make something different out of it. Maybe Kenny has sunglasses on, but then takes them off and breaks them. It's like, you think sunglasses, is what defines me as a heel? No, I'll show you. You guys been wanting, like, that could be the promo. It's like, you guys just want the old Kenny from Japan. That's not what you're gonna get. I'm gonna dictate what you'd see. Something like that. It just
show like Don Callis now is his representation. Even as EVP, he has no time to be there. He's not going to be at the meetings. Don Callis is. Now, Don Callis shows up. We're waiting for Kenny. Here comes. Where's Kenny? I'm here for Kenny. I'm speaking for Kenny. Kenny gave me carte blanche to say whatever. I'm speaking for him. And so you have these meetings with Cody, the Bucks, Tony Khan, and Don Callis is just being total carny salesman, just taking over. Yep. Oh yeah, this is what we're gonna do. Yeah, we're gonna wrestle. Oh, you know what? We're not gonna wrestle on this Dynamite. No. Now let's there's a few more dollars for myself and for Met Kenny. Kind of be total jerks to where like the Bucks are like, oh man, we can't take this guy. We gotta talk to Kenny, and Kenny keeps blowing him off because Callis keeps pushing him away, and finally it just leads to something. But this week coming up, they're teaming with the Impact Tag Team. The AEW Tag Team Champions, Young Bucks, are teaming with the Good Brothers. Why? I don't know. I'm sure this is a diehard AEW fan, and God bless you that you love it. But I'm sure on BTE that something happened. Well, I don't need to know on BTE because for the casual viewer, show something on their normal show.
Yeah.
They'll just throw me a graphic and be like, oh, now they're teaming after they beat up their manager or representative or something like that. I don't know. It's just.
Like I said, I'm with you. Like I said, from the time of August to now, so what, the last 4.5 months, whatever it's been, this has become the main big storyline in AEW. And yeah, just the plot holes between Kenny's character, this alliance with Don Callis as his manager, and now this crossover with Impact Wrestling. Like I said, it's just, like I said, all the loopholes, plot holes. Like I said, I'm a little frustrated because I'm watching this and I'm like, this doesn't make sense theoretically. Maybe it would make more sense if the other guys on the roster be like, wait a sec, what's going on here? Can someone just speak up with some common sense? Be like, wait, what is this?
Someone tried to tell me well, this is just a long-term story. So when Adam Page beats Kenny Omega for the title down the line, I'm like, Adam Page is dicking around with the Dark Order for weeks, or months now.
Yeah,
what's that doing to just get Adam Page ready for this big run coming up? That poor guy. Granted, the pandemic hit and there was no crowd, but still, he was organically not Steve Austin level, but it was percolating that way with the cowboy shit and everything. Man, he's becoming something, but this cowboy shit thing, you can feel it. I know the pandemic happened and the crowd wasn't there, but still, you can still present him as this badass guy of your company that's going to be this top babyface. No, now he's a drunk and
moping.
He doesn't know when someone doesn't want to be his tag team partner. Do you think Steve Austin would like he just beat the shit out of that guy, right? Or just wouldn't care, like he would know, like he'd be, because Steve Austin's always smarter than the heels, right?
Yeah.
And now now Adam Page is damn near crying when he had to turn down the Dark Order to join the group. So
I was to get the whiskey and walk off. I mean, I was gonna say, like, the last time Austin seemed scared was total coincidence was the Royal Rumble, right? Royal Rumble 96 or 97 when Bret Hart came out and he looked at the watch. Like, I mean,
he was still then he was still healed though. So he was doing that. But but
from that point on, he was not intimidated by anyone.
Yeah, then Austin the heel wasn't taking advantage either. You know, like when he was with Vince, and that's a whole wacky story. But that's a whole.
I know that. I guess kind of one last thing I was just thinking, you know, hypothetically speaking, however long this partnership is with Impact and AEW, I threw this out there on Twitter, the In The Kliq's Twitter page, is a little poll. It ended 50-50, 50%, 50% number of votes. I'm like, I didn't really get a defined answer. But, you know, long-term, AEW working with Impact, could AEW, I think this is something you and I maybe touched on before in a previous episode. Can Impact be like their version of NXT for AEW, like a developmental brand show? AEW has such a big roster now. In Dark is like for the really green talent out there in some ways. So some of them, the more established stars that need some little fine tuning, maybe send them to Impact and do some programs there to kind of develop their character more. I don't know. I just wonder, that might be one benefit of all this.
That's what I thought. Like, why don't you send a guy out there that you're not really featuring right now, and either a guy like that or some talent that needs experience? You could send, like, you know, Top Flight out there to work some matches with, you know, the Machine Guns and whoever, Eric Young and those guys, to kind of help them out. And, you know, while you don't have a storyline, instead of just throwing them on TV to wrestle random matches, they can have some kind of storyline. They get some experience on Impact. Working that television, because they never worked television before, right? And then when you're ready to push them or have them in a feature program, you bring them over. You know, send some of the ladies over. Send the Layla Hirsch to Impact. Let her gain some experience over there. You know, send Sean Spears treading water. Just throw him over there to Impact. Let him do some stuff right now. You know, keep him busy. Send Arthur Luther out the door. Not even into Impact, just past Impact. Just and Serpentor. And a couple other guys.
Scorpio Sky hasn't been doing much lately. I mean,
Scorpio Sky. Oh man, they're gonna break him out of SCU. They're gonna make him this big old single star. He wrestled Jericho, lost. Yay!
Right.
That was it. He wrestled Cody for the TV title, lost. Yay!
That's what it was. Before I forget, you said it before on the Fight Games like Facebook group. Vince, comparing Tony Khan to Vince McMahon in the USWA. Yeah. Can you just explain that connection real quick, just in case anyone who's maybe a little bit too young doesn't know that, like, that reference or whatever? I mean, just what that connection is that you notice.
Well, the WWF and USWA, you know, they were sharing talent, and Vince decided to do a heel gimmick there, kind of testing out the Mr. McMahon character before. And to him, I think he was just having a good old time, really, with it, and it was doing business, you know. And it helped Memphis pick up a little bit, and Vince shows up on his first night. I think Owen was wrestling Lawler or something, or maybe Papa Shango or something weird, like, because Papa Shango was there and all this stuff. Yeah. And Vince comes out there with Pat Patterson, and Vince, I think he tripped Lawler on her way around, like Lawler's running around the ring, not his opponent. I think it might have been Owen, and he puts his foot out, trips Lawler, is like a nuisance. And I think Pat Patterson's the one that did the physical interference and helped out. And so from the get, when I saw Tony Khan do his little infomercial to Tony Schiavone, and when he's, you know, putting his hands under his biceps to flex a little bit, I thought, I wonder if he's like trying to do the USWA if it's McMahon. And then he shows up this past week at ringside with Jerry Lynn in the Pat Patterson gimmick. And Pat Patterson was the one that interfered. You know, Jerry Lynn was the one that interfered in the match with the Private Party guys. So I could just see this is like, Tony Khan having his fun, just like Vince did, but Vince a little better at it, obviously.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Tony Khan is just he could be a good heel because he has that little wormy look, I think but I don't know. That's the only just kind of like I could just see that solidified it. Last week solidified it. Tony, I know what you're doing, kid. And go ahead, have fun. Doesn't matter. No one's watching Impact anyway, so you can screw around with it.
He probably logged on to WWE Network recently. Probably saw old footage of that or something and started.
Unfortunately, that's not on.
Or is that Prime?
No, you can get that on YouTube. There's someone has like. It was like post like 7 years ago or something like that. I mean, a little longer, where he has it like, you just look up WWF versus USWA, and like part 1, part 2, like it just kind of goes through the steps, and you'll see like Lex Luger showing up on USWA TV, which I had a kick out as a kid. Obviously, we talked about Lex Luger, Shawn Michaels wrestling Jeff Jarrett at the Memphis Coliseum, Mid-South Coliseum.
Oh, awesome!
Perfect showing up versus Lawler. Old rivalry come back. Papa Shango win the USWA title. Like, they just did some stuff. It was pretty cool. And I remember like hearing USWA for the first time on WWF TV, which was like WWF never recognized anyone, right?
Yeah,
that was a trip. And I don't know if you remember, like 1995, like PG-13 wrestling the Smoking Guns on Raw, like And like that just blew my mind hearing Vince McMahon say USWA, they're from the USWA group, and I'm like, whoa! It's just like, so that was a cool little thing, and it could have been WCW and USWA, that could have, but that never happened. Wow. It could have been WCW and Smoky Mountain, but unfortunately Watts got fired, and that never happened. So, and then Cornette, of course, became a work agreement. They had a work agreement not only USWA but also Smoky Mountain in 93, 94. It was pretty amazing. And that was the start, because USWA Memphis was the start of the developmental territory with Power Pro, and what was that, 98, because that's where my buddy Mike Lockwood, Crash Holly, and Vic Ryans went there. And so that was the start of getting this ball rolling on developmental territories.
Wow. Oh my God.
A lot of stuff you can just dive into, man. It's pretty awesome.
I think we might, like, one of these days, maybe like bonus content or something, like, just all
watch along with you gotta watch just Vince McMahon cutting a promo on Memphis TV with his jacket, his WWF sports coat, and of course he was a lot bigger back then, the bodybuilder Vince McMahon, and he just opens his jacket up and he has the USWA world title belt around his waist, because I think maybe Owen won it or something. And
oh my God,
out there stuff. I remember reading this stuff as a kid, getting the PWA magazines. I was like seeing the pictures, and I remember that was one of the Memphis was like the first territory I really wanted to see when I got tape trading back in the day.
Yeah, man. No, good stuff there. And listen, I feel like this is going to be an ongoing topic that you and I are going to touch on over the coming months as this thing plays out. So I hope there's some way to recover this, but I think at this point they're a little bit in deep now with the current storyline they have. I mean, we'll write it out as best we can and try to enjoy it and try to understand and translate in our head like what's going on here. But
I don't think it's really going to add business at this point, unless they, like you said, they do something different to kind of clean things up. I think it's just going to be another one of their storylines. And I think with people's hope when it first happened, like, whoa, what is this going to be? It's not going to be NWO versus WCW or all that kind of stuff. It's just going to be their own little deal.
Well, and then also they wore Bullet Club gear at Hard to Kill, that pay-per-view. And I was like, how do you do that if New Japan owns the rights? So is New Japan on the horizon of being involved in this storyline as well? Like there's a secret partnership going. So
possibly. But what would New Japan really... I think I talked about this with... Who did I talk about this? Was it Garrett on the podcast? Or I just talked to privately someone? Maybe I was
You have so many comments that you forget now.
Yeah. But what does New Japan do for them when it comes to ratings? Because I believe their hardcore audience already watches New Japan.
Yeah.
Unless there's the New Japan fans that just don't watch U.S. wrestling, maybe that, or I don't think those people are I don't think that. I think it's more of a crossover with AEW and New Japan than it is with anything, right? So
Yeah, it's
be interesting to see. I mean, it would benefit New Japan, and I think the person they would like to get more New Japan would benefit from is getting Kenny back to do some big shows. Dakota, especially Dakota's champion now, so Dakota Bushi's champion, so that makes sense.
so maybe hypothetically, like Kenny, if he gets the Impact title, so he has AEW Impact Mega Championship, could be the next title he goes after is getting back the IWGP Championship against his best friend, former best friend.
Has that been dropped though? I haven't heard too much of the belt collector.
Yeah, they really emphasize it as much anymore.
Yeah, if he's the belt collector, wouldn't he really want that match with Swan for the title, especially after he beat him at the pay-per-view just a couple weeks ago? Wouldn't he be the guy wrestling at No Surrender?
It's like you said, there's plot holes. I mean, listen, I mean, I think they filmed a lot of stuff at Impact in advance already, so it's like how they're going to start injecting Kenny into those. Because I was thinking what happened back in December, like all their stuff was already pre-taped back in November for Impact.
Yeah, they intercut that footage of them in that
or trailer
bus,
or bus,
yeah, the Madden bus.
Yeah, so I don't know, man. Like I said, you and I will still watch it, and hopefully, they'll figure things out and kind of make some sense out of it. But no, like I said, it should be interesting to see how this plays out, and hopefully it'll make sense at some point. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and start wrapping things up for tonight, for this week's episode of In The Kliq. John, as always, thank you for making the time, breaking it down, making some sense of this chaos. Like, I feel like I'm the only one, I'm scratching my head. I'm like, what is going on here? So I appreciate I have someone I can bounce off with all this stuff with.